The Punch newspaper is last but not the least. Anger as state warehouse rise, delay palliatives sharing. Anger as state warehouse rise, delay palliatives sharing. Borno distributes rise to 400,000 households. Workers lament hunger, demand relief. That's the Punch newspaper there. You know, the word anger, when I said it, actually that's of the funny comedian, you know, Steve, when he say anger.
But indeed, there is anger in the land by some persons. So we'll get to that.
Right.
But let's begin with this matter of security. If you look at the front page of the blueprint, the story talks about Badaru to service chiefs on insecurity. Give me timeline, our cross command channel to get results. That's that the Minister of Defense is speaking. Abubakar Badaru is putting security chiefs under pressure as it is, because you know, coming out of the service chiefs, they are saying their job is on the line because they have a year to deal with any form of insecurity in the country. Recall that we've been talking about this matter of insecurity for a long time, that if that is addressed, a majority of the issues when it comes to the economy, whichever aspect or sector of the society would move and grow in the dimension that everyone wants it to. And that is what the minister has come in now, and he's speaking, he was engaging with the service chiefs, and he told them, give me timelines, tell me your action points, what do you intend to do? And I'm giving you 1 year to addressing these matters of insecurity. This has lingered for too long. Nigerians just want to sleep with their eyes closed.
Absolutely.
Look at the number of killings, especially in Plateau State, for instance, the number of killings. When you look at Mangu, for instance, that have been in the news for some time now, how women even came out to protest the number of killings, invasion into their communities. You know, to the extent they were saying they do not even want security personnel within their environment. These are some of the issues. Some persons are beginning to lose hope in the ability and capability of security personnel to actually secure them as it is.
You know, we can't say a country is developed without having a peaceful society, peaceful community where everyone, just like you said, can go to bed with their 2 eyes closed, and then they sleep, you know, very, very soundly. So it's very good that we're getting this marching order, but it's not enough when they say that, okay, I'm giving you a year to resolve all insecurity issues, you know, bedeviling Nigeria. Because it has caused a lot of crises in Nigeria in terms of humanitarian crisis, caused a lot of problem for, you know, enough production of food, you know, produce from farmlands, because
farmers cannot go to their farms.
They've not been able to go to their farms, and it affects, it's just a spillover effect, you know, vis-a-vis that of the fuel subsidy removal. So everything has really skyrocketed. And if there is no food, if there is no peaceful coexistence, then there is a lot of problem in the land. So whatever the government is doing, without ensuring that security is put in place, then there is going to be much more effect on the economic impact. Because if they are saying that they want to, they want Nigerians to benefit from the dividend of democracy, if we have insecurity issues, you know, facing us, there is no way they can say, yes, we have been able to deliver on our mandate. So banditry, kidnapping, farmer header crisis, you know, name it. It's really, really causing problem for this country, and we can't wait. 1 year is just too much, but then, I mean, too long. It's too long. That's what I'm trying to say, that 1 year is too long. You know, the boots are supposed to get on the ground and, you know, hit the ground running.
Well, do we know what it takes to achieve that? Do we have the boots on the ground?
No, when I say that,
because the number of security personnel that, for instance, in Niger State, we lost a number of them to some attacks. Now, do we know the number of personnel we have on the ground? Can they deliver on that? Yes, we know that the police force is coming with a special squad to addressing any matters of insecurity as quickly as possible. But then saying 1 year, I don't know how realistic that is. Perhaps this is a KPI issue now as it stands. Yeah. Deliver. So what can you achieve in that 1 year? For me, that is how I want to see it. Because we've had issues of financing, having the number of boots on the ground. We've had matters of faith columnists, hampering, the progresses and the processes that government have put in place to addressing these issues. How do we deal with all of these things to get the result we want at the end of the day? And remember that the security issues vary across regions.
Yeah, it does.
What is happening in the northeast is different from what is happening in the northwest and what is happening in south-south, southeast, and southwest. So how are we looking at addressing them? If we can break that down, then perhaps we can know how to address it and get some tangible results in 1 year. But that we can stamp out insecurity in 1 year, I am not sure.
Yeah, when I say 1 year, of course, we know that that's because it's all about us too. If we say we want to have a peaceful society, a well-secured society, the policing of this country starts from us because we don't expect the soldiers or the police to do all of this for us. So if you see something, you say something, you raise the alarm, and then...
That's where the issue of trust comes in.
Yeah, really. We see that Lagos has been, peaceful to a very, very large extent, reasonable extent. How the government has been able to, do it, other states should learn from it. We've talked about the community policing. Yes. We see what gave birth to Amotekun and how much they've achieved. We've talked about the MNJTF, what they've done so far. We've talked about the vigilantes and all of that. So I think it's a holistic thing, and the government really need to approach this with broader view. And it's all about political will as well. You know what bedeviled the last administration, the farmer-header crisis, where people were saying maybe the president didn't want to do as much so that it doesn't, but then it does not really matter the ethnic background that you have. It's all about in every ethnic group, there is always the bad guys. There will always be people who don't mean well for their fellow humans. So I feel it's important, whoever asks is God, the president the service chiefs, the president, whoever is taking this stance should not look in their eyes.
You're now speaking you're sounding like Nyesom Wike now. Yesterday you were criticizing him, now you are sounding like him.
No, Nyesom Wike is my man, any day, any time. Sometimes, when someone does something right, you give kudos. And when you feel that, no, it's not enough, you give the person a knock. But we are looking forward on a broader level that Nigeria becomes a better and a safe society, because at the end of the day, it will we'll see the impact on development, we'll see the impact on the economy, we'll see the impact on freedom of movement and association.
Absolutely, and the matter of intelligence gathering, the use of technology. Well, I believe that the president in his campaign, had all of that in his 8-point agenda of renewed hope. Right. And so that might be the blueprint with which the service chiefs as well as the Minister of Defense would run with as it is now. And let's quickly touch on this matter of palliatives, talking about anger and so in some states as...
The anger on the land. There'll be anger in the land.
I don't want to laugh because this is not a laughing matter.
It's not a laughing matter. Yeah, really.
Because, the government put together palliatives, gave each state, 36 states of the federation as well as the Federal Capital Territory, 5 billion naira, and also, released about 100,000 bags of rice to each of these states, 40,000 bags of grains, and also give 52% of that money, so talking about the 5 billion, was grants, and then 48% was loans, and all of it just to ensure the cushion the effect of the removal of fuel subsidy. And now this matter of some persons storing the same bag of rice that you are supposed to give to the most vulnerable reminds us of what happened during the COVID era. Now, these are the concerns that some Nigerians raised when the federal government talked about giving out palliatives. The sincerity in distributing it and distributing it as at when due. Nigerians are pressured right now. Why are you keeping them in your storage or warehouse, whatever it is? Is that where they're supposed to be?
That's why when we talk about, when we analyze issues that are happening in this country, we often talk about the president. We talk about the executive all the time. We don't really look at, okay, what is the role the state governments are playing? What is the role our local governments are also playing? Right. Because everything is all about the president. So I think the state governments, they are the closest to the people.
They were involved.
Not the closest, right? But they are close to the people as much as the local government chairmen are also closest to the people. Absolutely. So if they are warehousing, these palliatives, so to speak, what would they say? Would they say that they are still gathering data to see who they can distribute this to? We believe that's one of the problems we face in this country. We should always have, reasonable data so that we'll be able to know how do we reach the poorest of the poor. How do we get to, people that are, the indigent people in their country? I mean, their states.
This matter was supposed to be, there's supposed to be a social register of persons who
that's the word, social register.
Of persons who are supposed to be the poorest of the poor, the most vulnerable as it is, that should benefit from this palliative. What happened to that register is the question. Is if you are saying, okay, maybe because you do not have the data, that register is supposed to guide you as to who gets what. At the end of the day, we have seen other states, distributing the palliatives. Why are these ones still keeping them? Because there are big questions as to distribute this thing timely. Nigerians are waiting for it. The federal government has given it to the state governors. What is happening? Hand it over to those who you feel have that character and will do this transparently so that people can trust the government and restore faith in the government. There might also be... I hope now that people are raising concerns with regards to some of these palliatives in warehouses, that those who have stored them will open the warehouse and distribute it.
They might be handicapped, by what we saw in somewhere in Ilorin, where they said just about 3 bags of rice, was the one that was shared for a particular community, and they were like, "How do we want to do it?" So in this vicinity, we only got something less than three buckets of rice.
Tell us
so how do we share it?
Tell us what you got.
How do we share it?
Then they'll begin to ask questions. Anyway, we'll have to leave the conversation. Thank you for staying with us. Since Nigeria gained independence in 1960, this is the first time that a ministry has been created to focus on the blue economy. The blue economy is a sustainable use of ocean resources for economic growth, improved livelihoods and jobs while preserving the ocean ecosystem. The creation of the Marine and Blue Ministry headed by Honorable Tunji Ojo shows the commitment of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's administration to revive the Nigerian economy by exploring innovative ways to boost growth and grow the nation's revenue. This is a forward-thinking approach to harnessing the untapped potential of our vast marine resources that has the potential to not only drive economic development, but also provide a platform for the youth to showcase their talent, skills, and entrepreneurship.
We must come up with practicable ways of ensuring that our inland rivers, lakes, and waterways are well utilized, both in terms of cargo shipment and passenger transportation.
In due time, we'll also be unveiling a new vision for Nigeria's foreign policy, 4D diplomacy.
There's a reason why the ministry was renamed, to refocus us back. We need to bring smiles back to the faces of Nigerians.
We shall be working with KPIs. If it is monthly, 3 times, 4 times in a year, please, you better let us all now recycle ourselves.
All right. Joining us in the studio is consultant marine oil and gas, as well as lawyer and rights activist chief Tony Dania, and we must also thank you for coming.
Thank you.
We must also quickly correct that this ministry is being headed by former governor of Osun State, gboyega Oyetola. Now, let's come to the matter of blue economy. A lot of Nigerians are just hearing this for the first time, and in explaining to us what BEES is all about, also talk to us how viable marine is for what the government intends to achieve.
Thank you so much. If you look at the history of blue economy, you see that it was first exposed by Gunther Pauli from Antwerp. But then we've been talking about this blue economy without using the words blue economy.
Oh, okay.
I remember an article I gave when Obasanjo was the president in Guardian and the Sun newspaper. Soon after that article, Obasanjo said that a maritime bank shall be established with a $1 billion. I don't know if you can remember that. So we've been talking about blue economy. It simply means how we can maximize benefit from the ocean and coastal ways. That is the simple meaning of blue economy. How can maximize benefit? Now, let me quickly correct the impression by my friend and senior, Agbakoba, that we can generate trillions of dollars per annum. That is not correct, because globally, what is anticipated, blue economy is anticipated to generate is about $3 trillion. So how can Nigeria alone not generate that much? It is important to correct this because everybody is already talking about it. I listened to your program yesterday. Somebody called in. I was saying that the blue economy shall generate. Well,
there's no harm in being optimistic, though.
yes, it's good to be optimistic, but if you are too optimistic, you cause problem because Nigeria has a peculiar situation.
How do you mean?
Yes. You know, the point is that everybody suspects everybody, even when a minister intends to do the right thing. As it is now, everybody suspects that you are there to make money, you are there. The maritime industry can produce income that is about twice the income we are getting from oil. So it's a very big one. But then this is a terrain that have been left unmanaged, unguided, no joint protocol. We have maritime and ocean agencies like the Shippers Council, the MASA, the Maritime University, and all that. Have there been a joint collaboration? And you know, when you talk of blue economy, you are talking of deep water drilling too, which is where they drill crude oil, and that is under the Ministry of Energy. So there have to be some collaborative effort here. And then when you talk of blue economy, you are talking of fishery. It has not been well guided. We have local persons that are doing fishing. And then again, the opportunities that will come here, if the federal government did not handle it well, it is the foreigners that will be exploiting it. Because we have a lot of mineral deposits in Nigeria. You are aware we have lithium, we have uranium even. And then they are being illegally managed. We have illegal fishery activities going on the water. We have, and again, the blue economy also involves the protection and preservation of the water.
Yes.
So, but that has not been properly coordinated because it also have environmental impact. You understand? So if you allow some people fish with, those days I used to hear what you call, there's a chemical they use in fishing. It's causing damages. Now, if you continue to fish and exploit other positive activities on the water without preserving them and taking steps to enhance more creations, then at a given time, just like they have been predicting that our crude oil will be exhausted within so time, you will see that even what the marine offers will also be exhausted. But again, talking about marine is beyond the creation in the water. You look at maritime itself. Maritime, Nigerian state is supposed to be one of the best maritime states in the water, in the world, like Denmark and other things. So, but Nigeria has not properly exploited maritime opportunities because, one, there is no capital for Nigerians to exploit this. I remember when the federal government gave out incentive to ship owners. What did we hear about it? A lot of owners of vessels in Nigeria bought their vessels themselves. and they go about looking for job for the vessel. In UK, we have the Cargo Society. You register with them when you have a vessel. They call you to come and take jobs. But foreign vessels, despite the cabotage, find a way of coming in to do the job here. Only a few Nigerians own vessels that are managing. I know of Beta Mega Services and a few others. But majority that want to do the business. I once owned a vessel. I was the owner of MT Alex. But he died. No job, no encouragement. We have to sell off. So, and scrap. So, you see, the federal government need to do a lot. Now, this minister, Oyetola, I know is capable. And I must commend the current president for this move. You know, it is not that we have not been hearing of blue economy before now. The former vice president headed the team on it. The United Nations have been talking about it. African Union, in fact, the Sustainable Development Goal, number 14, is all about blue economy.
So, well, for instance, looking at how much we can generate from the blue economy, for instance, in 2022, when Nigeria is, was still sleeping, Egypt actually generated close to 8 billion naira revenue, from that sector. So, if you want to look at it, how much do you think we can generate? Because some also said that it can help also create about 30 million jobs.
That's globally. That is globally.
The global jobs that can be created.
About 30 million.
So domesticating it, how do you think Nigeria can, generate? How much do you think Nigeria can generate, and in what number can you put the jobs that we can get?
Nigeria can generate not less than $200 billion.
$200 billion.
Yes. Now, in maritime alone, you must remove the inherent corrupt practices, the current bureaucratic procedure that is adding to the landing cost of anything that has passed through marine, like oil and container goods. We have what we call wet cargo, dry cargo. So the cost of moving it past our arriving here, MPA will charge you. Don't forget that you can't talk about marine without mentioning MPA. But as MPA been living up to its expectation, when there was a review of the powers of MPA, MPA remains, excuse me, the landlord of all the ports. Has the ports been properly exploited? No. There was a time we made a proposal to MPA, I'm saying this, they can confirm, that look, we have this port at Ogere. We have this port in Benin. We have this port that passed through Burutu. We have this port that you can dredge a portion at near Onitsha. So you can create what we call maritime route. Maritime route is to the water, what road channel is to the...
Just like the Suez Canal.
Yeah, so you can create maritime route so that most of these goods that we are moving on the road through containers can go through the marine. And you can also create ferries. Right now, ferries are being, done by the government, and Lagos is taking the lead. But you should allow private participation in all of this. Then above all, I had one environmental activist raising issues that the Ministry of Gas and the Ministry of Marine and the Blue Sea have not taken cognizance of environmental. I disagree with him. What the minister should do is, and again, a minister does not need to be a marine engineer. You have just described me as a marine consultant. That doesn't mean I'm a marine engineer. But if you want a good marine engineer, I can get. You understand? So the minister only needs to put together a team. There's a framework already by the committee headed by the past vice president on this issue. The United Nations has a framework for blue economy. The African Union has a framework. There are countries, like you mentioned, Egypt, have taken the lead. Let me tell you something about Nigeria that is peculiar. Let me digress a little bit. When GSM was introduced in Nigeria, before we started using GSM, before it became commercialized, Cotonou shoemakers were using GSM. But are you aware that Nigeria is one of the most, the world most, we are one of the highest consumers of GSM wares in the world. It's just like rice. When the former president stopped importation after a lot of criticism, do you know that we are among the world highest producers of rice. Are you aware? So this Blue Sea, the only thing we need to do is to come up with a framework. Don't allow politics to come in.
Is that possible?
Yes, you have to. The president must allow, if the president wants to benefit from this blue economy, the president should allow the minister to work without much interference. No
How do you mean?
Let me tell you something.
The minister already has his mandate, his portfolio. He knows that he has his job cut out for him. So
let me tell you something.
How is the president going to interfere?
There was a time President Obasanjo set up, appointed a company called Mike Lely Marine, who were their maritime consultants, to check thievery and illegal activities on the sea. Before this Tompolo own came, there was Mike Lely Marine. And then we took chopper to survey the water. We discovered that one of the big thieves, I don't want to mention his name, one-time chairman of PDP. And when the report was given to Baba Obasanjo, you know, he doesn't waste time. The man, we were there when he came. And in the president, he embarrassed him. Oh, Lanier, I know why you are coming. They were involved in thievery. So if it was a minister that we reported to, how do you think he will handle that?
Okay.
So that is why I said the president have shown that he will not tolerate nonsense. Let this Blue Sea work. If we allow the kind of influence, with due respect, like we have in IMASA now, if you want to get intelligence, it's not only the app you apply. For example, if a ship is on the water, you apply app to check, right? You go to what you call maritime traffic. You will know where that ship is. As far as you have the IMO number. But you see, me, I can call the local boys, flying canoe, and say, oh boy, please check if so vessel is at so place. And if she's pregnant, that is local intelligence. Check local intelligence and hear what is happening in IMASA. Then again, the Navy. The Navy is playing a role in the movement of maritime, in maritime business. For example, you want to take a product from one ship to another, you need naval approval.
Yes.
Good. But this thing is being negatively exploited and overpriced. All this should be checked to reduce business, maritime business. We want to properly exploit the Blue Sea economy.
When you say overpriced, how do you mean?
You pay officially and unofficially. Everybody knows that. And the unofficial payment is more than the official payment. If you want to get things done. Who doesn't know that? So if you have to remove this, and it will help you. You understand? It's like, getting your CFO and all that. It is only the land registry in Lagos that have not gone digital. Why? Because of inherent corruption. You can sit down in your house, apply for your CFO, and they process it. Why can't we do that? You can sit down in your house and apply for approval, and they will check without you coming there. Just like what VIO have done now in Lagos State, commendable. You know, they are no longer on the road. When you commit an infraction, your plate number is recorded, you are contacted, and you are told you've committed so. Though there are exceptions. I mean, with that, you can't accuse them again of corruption. Why can't we do that? Why must we go to Navy all the time? And then Navy will come and check. And it's not only Navy. Navy, MPA, NIMASA, Agri-Care Committee. There are so many. So, Customs, these are agencies that play roles. And then if you don't checkmate them, they will cause problem for us. Then it is a free-for-all Blue Sea economy we have in Nigeria. That must be checked. Then the impact on environment, this is extremely important. Because I know that there is this association of local fishermen in Nigeria now. I know they have consulted me once. I know they exist because I think with what Professor Sibajo was doing then for the federal government, they will be removed from business. No, the minister must take note of this. They are playing their roles. It's just for them to be properly guided. If there is a framework where every investor or every participant will comply strictly, then we are good to go.
Quite interesting. So you talked about, let's try to explore the environmental aspects of it. Because under the SDG goal, they talked about the SDG 14. They said they note that the pollution, overfishing, coral bleaching, and coastal ecosystem destruction are all exacerbated by population growth. So in what way do you think they can really manage that? Because while we are looking for money, aggressively, because there's a lot of money's right there living in the waters. So while we are looking for that, what exactly would you want the government to put in place to ensure that we don't degrade our environment in the process?
Yeah, I've said that we have the UNO frame work. We have the AU. In Namibia, it was declared there. And then Nigeria should come up with its own. We have other countries that have done it successfully, Egypt, Barbados, and a few other countries. Nigeria should come up with its own. Nigeria should lead this. Like, for example, there are a lot of things we have done here, and that in the world, they are commending us. Nigerian cable is one of the best electric cable in the world. Nigerian zinc is one of the best. Now, some of the drugs, Panadol and the rest, Nigeria has one of the best. So let us make the best of this. Because if you want to make the best of it and make it a center of attraction positively to the world, then the minister has a lot of work to do. Well, we know him. He performed well when he was governor, so he will not be overwhelmed, and he should not be too concentrate on the money for now. Look at how you can create a framework, set up a committee to look at all this. The local fishermen should not be put out. Any person that wants to do anything on the water, you heard about an incident in the Lekki Aja Axis on the water, which caused erosion. I think there was an activity, there was a project there, and I asked MPA, was there an environmental impact analysis for that project? If you don't have it, you cannot do any project, and you must be strict with it. Then, I remember now, those days when we were small, Grand Marine, that's what we call the chemical. We used to fish. Once you pour it into the water, the fish will die, you take the fish, it's out. We must stop it because it's harming the creatures in the water. The creatures in the water, you know, when you talk of blue economy, you are talking about the creatures of the water, you are talking of maritime activities, you're talking of aquaculture, you are talking of biotech, a lot of things comes up. And you are also talking of deep sea drilling and exploitation of deep sea. Yeah. So these are the things you are talking about. But if the water is not preserved, then we have a short life to it. And if it is made free for all, you know, then there will be issues. Right now, it is almost free for all. And then foreigners most are the ones that have the capital to do most of these exploitations. You have to mobilize Nigerians to be able to do this. There are a lot of experts who can talk about, you know, give opinions, suggestions on what to do. Then we have operators. People like us only have knowledge. But there are operators. There are master mariners. There are, you know, managers of rigs. There are consultants on technicalities, marine. You know, these are the people you bring to the table. And then don't ignore the local people. And the persons, if we have the inhabitants of the coastal line, don't ignore them. You understand? For example, if Dangote refinery is coming up, as a consultant, I know what you can do close to Dangote refinery that will supplement what Dangote refinery is doing, that will give you billions. Just like you have traffic on the road, there's traffic on the water. And that's why we do what we call double bunking. Your vessel comes to a jetty. Another vessel wants to come. It has been cleared in by MPA. It cannot go and block the channels or the route. So it has to come. Then you can allow, if MPA has granted you some extent into the water within our pilotage area, you can bring another ship. You put Yokohama fenders or Caterpillar tires on the first one because the ship is still, they must not rub on each other. Now you put it there, and that is what we call double bunking. So if you have a jetty close to Dangote, you will make money. Who can build jetty? It's millions. So you see, it is the foreigner that will come and exploit. That is the area. We must not allow foreigners to take advantage of the blue sea economy. That is likely to happen because Nigerians don't have the capacity. You understand? They don't have the capacity. And then there are a lot of the channel for employment, for example. We have those who will come and clean ship. We have those who will come and fumigate. If a vessel comes into your water, vessel does not use the seawater. Vessel use fresh water like you are using. So that you have water tanker on the road. We have what we call water boat that supplies fresh water, supply food. So you can see the chain of employment. You understand? Then the shipping agent. So that means we must, because we've been training a lot of personnel in maritime, they are not engaged.
Right.
They don't even have practicals. I've also chartered my vessel, Institute of Fisheries in Victoria Island, for practicals. They don't have. The Maritime Institute now, I think, taking an investing status. I don't think they have, the current rector, well, is trying to, improve on what he met, but there is still more to do. Our personnel should be given practical experience. Otherwise, master mariners from outside will come and
take over.
Yes.
Now, you mentioned some issues earlier, and I'm wondering how challenging it will be, talking about bureaucracy and corruption. Yes. Because if you have all the capacity and whatnot personnel, and there's bureaucracy and corruption, we might not get the best out of this marine economy, so to speak. How challenging do you think it would be for the minister to addressing those issues you mentioned earlier?
Is to reduce as much as possible physical meeting.
How do you
get activities go on online? Make it online. Just do intermittent checking to check situation and compliance. You want to apply for naval approval, do it online. You want to, if you have to pay online. You want to clear your goods, do it online.
Well, humans are still at the back end.
Yes, but it will drastically reduce bureaucracy and corruption, and it will make it fast. Then give timeline. Like I heard the president has given 1 year to the security agencies.
Yes.
Give timeline that when there is an application for anything, it must not stay beyond so. Because some person will delay, if you cannot pay, leave it, your file is here. Right. You understand? So you must give a time limit within which certain activities must be completed. And you must be strict. And there's no sacred cow. That's why I said you should be given free hand to do your job. Then consult widely. If you take care of this now, money will be coming in. Don't forget environmental impact analysis. Don't forget you should be harvesting. Because when you say harvesting, that means you must plant, right?
Right.
Good. So you should plant and then harvest. Because that is what you should be doing, harvesting on blue economy.
I'm not sure we have enough time, but very quickly, just like you talked about investors who will be coming in, there are current investors right there in the maritime industry, and those who are also looking to take seize the opportunity that this blue economy will create. But I'm not sure whether we have the ocean governance policy, whether it's in place. If it's not in place, what does the government need to put in place to ensure that we have these ocean governance policies?
We have a semblance of an ocean governance policy. Because when you say ocean governance policy, you are looking at set policies or rules that have been guiding maritime activity, which is the same thing as ocean. We have. It's just for the minister to set up a committee to look for these things. The vice president, they came up with a framework. It's just that they didn't set up a ministry. And this is commendable. So while we are excited about this ministry, we shouldn't jump into exploitation now. Work out a framework. Look at all that has been happening. Look at the inhabitants of the coastal line. They are protecting the water too. If we have this arrangement of, if a road contract is given and it's passing through your village, you, the king or the Bale, make sure they comply with standard practice. Right. If you notice anything, let us know. The same thing in the coastal line, because most of the persons that are operating illegally, they stay within the villages around the coastal line. And most of the time, they are not developed. If you go there, they are living in tent houses, they are living in shanties, and they are on the coastline.
All right, we do not have much time anymore, but a lot has been said. I would believe that those handling this ministry, headed by former governor of Osun State, Oyetola, would actually look into some of the things that you have mentioned. We must thank you, consultant, marine, oil and gas, lawyer, right activist, Chief Tony Dania. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
Please talk more about this.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's why we're having this interview. Right. Thank you for staying with us. More than 48 hours after they took their oath of office and made appearances at their various ministries to kickstart their jobs that could last for the next 4 years, they have a huge burden on their shoulders. It is to meet up with the president's objectives and expectations from Nigerians. For some of the ministers who spoke, minimizing the sufferings of Nigerians is top on the agenda for them. Joining us in the studio to discuss this is public affairs analyst and UK-based immigration lawyer, Olufemi Aino. Good morning.
Yes, good morning. Thank you.
As well as fellow Nigerian Institute of Management, Razak Ulukoba. Good morning.
Thank you, Veronica.
And via Zoom from Abuja is public affairs commentator, Mayokun Ilu. Good morning, Mayokun. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, Veronica. Good morning to the house.
Good morning.
Happy to be here.
All right. Let me begin with you, Mayokun. On the day that the ministers were swearing their oath of allegiance to the Federal Republic of Nigeria, the president made some statements talking about how it is that the ministers are not ministers of a particular state or region, but for the country, and how it is important for them to restore faith in governance, as well as also ensure that they are transparent in their dealings. How critical was it for him to make these statements, looking at the fact that leading up to the election, during the election and afterwards, we saw ethnic profiling as well as religious profiling? How critical was it for him to make this statement?
Well, thank you, Vero. I think it was instructive, though given the antecedents, many of them needn't be reminded. But it was good that the president mentioned it. Many of them were governors, many of them were senators, many were coming from one area of concentration or the other that was not likely federal. So now that it has been said to them, if you are a governor in a particular state, 80–90% of your functions were largely concerned with citizens of your state. Now that you are thinking at a federal level, as a federal minister, your speech, your words, your thinking, even your approach to issues should now be a bit political, a bit more sentimental towards federal issues, more accommodating of other people's opinions. So I think it was good that the president said it. I'm sure they have taken it. Somebody like Nyesom Wike, for instance, is coming from Rivers State. Now he's the minister of FCT. So everybody now is his constituency. There are things he has done before that will serve him well because everybody seems to now believe that, okay, sanity is coming back to the streets of Abuja. I drove here yesterday on my way to the office. Ordinarily, I will meet like 3–4 traffic lights, before getting to the office. Yesterday, I saw like 10. I was like, am I in London or am I still in Nigeria? So apparently these things were meant to work, but for one reason or the other, they've not been functioning over the past few months and years. But now that the new sheriff is in town, let's hope the good days will return and return for good.
Right, and that's what a lot of persons have been talking about. I hope it is not an initial move to the statements made by the Minister of the FCT. But let's come back to the studio here now, and let me come to you, Femi. The matter also of accountability. In this part of the world, a lot of persons have said that we do not have that system where we hold people to account. But now that the president is talking about accountability, how crucial is it?
Yes, it is very crucial. Don't forget, the buck stops with the president as the head of the executive. He is the one. He said something which is very important. He said, maybe we can call it an analogy or so, that it's like a vehicle. All these ministers, let's come together, drive the vehicle together, then Nigerians are passengers. That's a good analogy, provided who is going to hold the steering. That's the question we need to ask. And if the president is going to hold the steering, that's fine. We are all ready to come on board and help the president to achieve his objectives. But if you are not going to be in charge, and the person who is going to drive the vehicle is some wiki or these individuals, bet me and you, I don't know about you, I won't come inside that vehicle to start with if Wiki is going to be the driver. And you've seen it. You see, it is about collective responsibility. And that is something which is very essential. That even though you are a minister of the Federal Republic, you may not even, maybe you will have a different opinion about what is going on. But that collective responsibility, you just have to toe the party line, if that is the decision of the president. And what happened on Monday? The president said, look, let us work as a team, work together. There should be this and that. But what the president failed to do is to warn these ministers is that we don't want unnecessary controversies. Because at present, Nigerians are going through a lot based on subsidy removal, based on the foreign exchange merger and what have you. Their prices of goods and services are skyrocketing. So because of that, we don't want any unnecessary controversy. We want to govern. And again, whatever is the policy, if you're a minister of the Federal Republic, what is your role? You are there to advise the president, at the same time to formulate policy. And what is this policy? A policy is a statement of action. Any policy that you want to come up with has to be well thought out. Otherwise, if you are not careful, there will be an inconsistency in your policy, and then at the end of the day, you become ridicule. And the only thing is that the president wants to get a message across to Nigerian people that this is what I'm doing, this is what I'm going to do. Look at what happened on Monday. It's very unfortunate. Few hours after being sworn in, Jason Wike said, look, I'm ready to step on toes. I'm going to demolish this. You see, government must have a strategy. And that strategy is that front page of every newspaper, bad news is what sells newspaper. Good news doesn't sell newspaper. The moment the president advised the minister designate that, okay, this is the way to go. This is what you should do. On Tuesday, we expected that to be on the front page of most of the major newspaper. But the moment Wike said, we are going to demolish houses in Abuja,
it took what the president said.
It took over what the president said. If you look at the front page of Punch yesterday, it was really funny. Because it's in the public domain already. Look, federal government may revoke land allocation, demolish 6,000 building slums. Where did this come from? From Wike. And now, the message from the president, Tinubu, one minister against, you can see that didn't even form the headline. So, you see, we must have ministers, must not overshadow. I'm not saying they can't come up with policy, but those policy needs to be thought out within few hours. You have not even sat down with the civil servants, find out you've never read the handbook.
You may have done that behind the scenes.
It may well be, but having said that, at the same time, what do we want to get across? You said you are Mr. Project. And then at the end of the day, the first thing, once you assume office, is that I'm going to start demolition houses.
Was that wrong of him?
There is nothing wrong with that, okay? I'm not saying there is anything wrong. But at the same time, government must have a strategy whereby once you've been appointed, you don't rush to take a decision. You need to consult. You need to think through. Look, we have an Attorney General of the Federation, for instance. Now, if you start demolishing people's houses, don't you know what will be the snowball effect?
He's following the Abuja master plan. That's what he said. And so if you are building on areas that you are not meant to, those are the buildings that will be pulled down. That is what he said. I take your point,
but let me invite you to take my point.
All right.
We have a master plan.
Yes.
It's different from a minister saying, the Abuja master plan, I'm going to work strictly along the master plan. That is one thing. But the moment you start saying, we are going to demolish houses, I'm going to step on toes, we didn't appoint you as a minister to step on toes. We appoint you as a minister so that people can have the dividend of democracy. There is a difference between the two. And the moment you start on that controversial note, that is what we get across to the people. That is why that is the major headline in most of the newspaper. What would Nigerians need? There are a lot of challenges we are facing at present. How we are going to address those challenges. Those are the core objective of the government at this present time. We've been 84 days without ministers since the president took office on the 29th of May. Now that we have ministers in place, we want them to come up with policy that will alleviate poverty, policies that will alleviate the suffering of the people.
Razak, let me get your perspective. We've seen statements being made, bold statements being made by some of these ministers, like Nyesom Wike that he mentioned. We've even seen former Governor Dave Umahi move around some places talking about addressing the roads, the networks, and all of that. And we've also seen the defense minister coming out to say that he's given security chiefs 1 year to addressing the matter of any form of insecurity in the country. Before you respond, we need to quickly go on the break. When we return, we'll continue this conversation. Stay with us. All right, thank you for staying with us. We're still looking at the matter of the new ministers and their portfolios and how some of them have begun to make bold statements. Recall that before we went on the break, our guest here, Olufemi Aino, had spoken on the statement made by former Governor Nyesom Wike, who is the Minister of the FCT. And I was asking our other guest, Razak Olukoba, what you make of some of the bold statements that is coming out from some of these ministers. For instance, the Minister for Defense talking about addressing all forms of insecurity within 1 year. And the statement made by Governor Nyesom Wike, former Governor Nyesom Wike, Minister of the FCT, and also the Minister of Works, looking at the state of the roads and also making some statements.
Well, thank you. We have handed over all the equipment that will make the president do his work. And that's the final stage, the swearing of the minister. He will have read a lot of reports when the president came in. And for him to begin to implement the recommendations of various agencies and ministries, he will need these ministers around him. And that's why you see all of them making those strong statements. There's no sector in the country that is not in a state of emergency. Economy, health, security, even FCT. I share my colleagues' sentiment, but by looking at what Abuja has become today, you should make a stronger statement.
Really?
Yes, because the satellite towns that are supposed to be servicing Abuja were not there. They have been shared among themselves, among the political class. And you see drivers who close 5, 6 o'clock and will travel 7 miles. Those villages were not built or developed by government, but they were lands that were apportioned to service. When you have New York, you have New Jersey. When you have Lagos, you have somewhere. When you have London, you have someone around London too. That's what Abuja was supposed to be too. But it was taken over. People have strong character, you can't change them. That's the wickedest style. It's left to you to interpret what he's saying. And that's exactly what he's saying. What he said is exactly what he's saying, that the master plan is going to work according to it. And we need all sorts of people in government. People who will not talk and will walk. Fashola will not talk, but he will walk. Wike will talk, and he will also walk.
Yeah.
That's his style. But the focus will be what are they bringing to the table, all of them together, put together, and the president. And if you look at the survey done by labor productivity in Nigeria, the last time they had an accurate figure was 2008. The production rate, labor production rate is declining every year. And it gives me a concern when the army says they are giving 1 year to end insecurity, when the Minister for FCT is talking about bringing end to land grabbers in Abuja, when Minister of Works, health sector, the people who are responsible for carrying out the activities, what have you done about them? And that should be the first line of activity that the president should look into. The flight, in terms of intellectual, in terms of the labor force of Nigeria. That is
Brain drain.
The brain drain that is going on. So maybe that's what is responsible. So the direction you must first look at is, why are the people who are supposed to move the country not working? Why is there no urge to service the nation? We must look at what is responsible for it. Is it patriotism? Is it what the country is trying to offer that is not there again? And that is what I think the president should begin to look in the direction. Me, I am always advising against picking one sector of our life and say that they are going to declare emergency on it. The way the president has picked the economy and security, they should give equal attention to everything, because everything will depend on each other. When you don't have a labor that is willing to work, economy will not grow. So every sector of our life at this moment needs urgent attention. And that is why all of them seem to be making a very, very strong statement. So for me, half of government work is actually talking, pronouncing policy statement and enforcing it. So at the stage we are now, their position, their assertive position will give to the president is that no more rhetorics. I've told many Yoruba that I've known that the singing of Omoludu, stop it though. Don't create confusion for this man. You have sung his praise enough in the last 2 years that he's been campaigning for this. So let's begin to ask him questions. Security. So when will I be able to travel to everywhere, every part of Nigeria without looking at my back or having to ask Imam to pray for me before I go? Can I go, Imam? Having to consult pastor. Can I go to the east before I go? When will that stop? When will we stop our young men from leaving this country? When will that stop? When will the X sector? Someone just said on this program that our Panadol is better. I'm hearing that for the first time. People bring Panadol from Saudi Arabia. They say our Panadol is not good. So what is wrong with our SAIC? Why do we always think that anything in Nigeria
is not good enough?
It's not good enough. The president must also work on that. So when will we rebrand Nigeria and hand it over back to it? That is the question we should be asking the president now. And he said we should not pity him. And that is why I'm not mild with him. I won't talk to the president like someone I've known since 1992. We are going to be talking to him and asking him a question. Because people who don't have faith in him are beginning to say, Razak, we will see where this will handle. So the president should deliver. There is no reason for him not to deliver because he understands in total what Nigeria requires to succeed. The kind of political structure we put in place today that we know is very rickety. There is no president that can survive with this rickety political structure in place. He's aware, he knows that. So how do we begin to do something about that? Buhari has laid the template. How do we build on that? So all these things put together, the president has enormous work to do. And he must hit the ground running, like he has said. We want to start seeing solutions. What do you want to do about solutions? There, like I said, he personally pleaded. I don't know whether it is a correct position, that he personally pleaded for the way that was given to him. Oh, that is fine. That is good. If that has happened, that is good. That is the kind of passion we want in Nigeria. And I know that it's not a drive to go and get perks, or if that was not the reason why he has gone there. Part of the reason why I think he has gone there is because the noise about oil is too much. And the disregard for our naira. If you want respect for your naira, it's not a policy pronouncement. It's what can your economy do to the rest of the world. If your economy cannot do anything to the rest of your currency will not be respected. But if you have a strong economy, and that is the kind of education we need now from the government, that the stage we have, it's not me that will make my naira strong. It's all of us. Stop buying imported things. They say rice that we imported is flour. We are not eating flour rice. We are eating organic material. Eat local rice. I've just had a bite from nutritionists that anybody that's eating imported rice is not eating rice. And it's dangerous to our health. When do this kind of education going to come up? So he has enormous work. And that is why everything must work simultaneously. The attempt to concentrate on one sector is the beginning of failure for us. Because it's an umbilical cord.
Yeah.
Everything is intertwined together. So he can't face one thing. And that is why I said the equipment for him to succeed has just been handed over to him. That's the final stage, the ministers. And I've seen their faces that they know that we are in trouble with Nigeria, so we better work. They know himself. The minister knows that.
And he had to remind them.
Yes,
as
he had
well
to remember
in that statement. Even
or,
talking about the
so
matter
we are
of
watching.
restoring faith in the government.
We are panting. Just do the wrong thing, we are after you. And that's the position from Nigeria.
Now that you even mentioned accountability, so Nigerians have the opportunity to hold them
responsible. Yes.
Right. Let's quickly go on a break. When we return, we'll continue our conversation. Stay with us. All right. Thank you for staying with us. We've been looking at the matter of the ministers who just got or swore an oath of allegiance to the Federal Republic of Nigeria, how they should hit the ground running, looking at the various sectors. And we have our guests still speaking with us, public affairs analyst and UK-based immigration lawyer Olufemi Aino in the studio. We still have a fellow Nigerian Institute of Management, Razak Ulukoba, also speaking with us. And via Zoom from Abuja is a public affairs commentator, Mayokun Ilo. And I'm coming to you now, Mayokun. The first Federal Executive Council meeting will be held today. So much has been said in the studio with regards what is expected of this person's key performance indicators as well as key performance actions put forward before the president. I wonder what you expect from the conversations they will be having today.
I think the first thing that should be noted is a lot has been said about the qualifications and otherwise of the different ministers. That is in the bag now. Many of them are qualified. I would dare to say most of them, at least for what is expected constitutionally, they are overqualified. They have their antecedents. Many of them have worked in public offices before, many as commissioners, many as, I think Ali Pate is coming all the way from Harvard. So these are people with a pedigree coming to serve their fatherland. Now that they are here, there is a need for them to work in synergy, one with another. There is no ministry that is in a silo all by itself. For you to succeed, you need your co-travelers, fellow ministers. You need the stakeholders. And that kind of thinking is about the only thing that will make any minister or minister of state succeed in this dispensation. I want to believe that 80–90% of them have known one another over the years. But now that they are working under a new government, they need to reestablish contacts. They need to compare notes. They need to fashion policies together. When you are in the public sector, there's a way they do ad hoc committees. There's a way they look at interdisciplinary, maybe things that they do together. So at the end of the day, you should have somebody from, like Wike is talking about Abuja Master Plan. They should have input from the Ministry of Justice, to sit on their deliberations, to give them input, to give them perspectives. Nobody should go the way alone so that you are not blindsided by the desire to perform. You should be err on the side of action and also err on the side of caution, depending on what the circumstances dictate. So now that they are going to be sitting together, maybe every week, for as far as I'm concerned, even the need for the Federal Executive Council to be in-person meetings may have been exaggerated over time. They can use tools of technology to meet now. It's not compulsory. If you need to see the president 2 times in a week or 3, fine, you can go in and see that if he has the time to accommodate your needs. But if there's really nothing to report, you don't have to be meeting at every week. You can meet at your individual levels. So among other things, I've looked at what is expected. The key for leadership is for them to be proactive, is for them to be courageous, is for them to be prudent, is for them to know how to tap into talent, how to work the civil servants and use them to achieve whatever it is that has been said. Earlier in the day, I was looking at the 17 Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations. If only we use this on its own, in addition with our constitution as the Bible for those ministers, you'll be surprised what can be achieved in 4 years. Is it about the hunger? Is it about the poverty? Is it about water? Is it about maybe energy? Is it about other things that make life meaningful? We can't be going into foreign countries, into Western nations as it were, and seeing levels of development and see how governments are committed into issues of governance. And we come here and it's about maybe 2–3 people in public office buying a wine of that runs into millions of naira to celebrate one thing or the other. The optics is not okay. So I want to see them working together, working in a synergy. They have what it takes actually between them. And even somebody that has been asked to handle the Ministry of Education, for instance, somebody can say, okay, he's a lawyer, why are you giving him education? Everybody was educated at one point or the other. So it's about that leadership coming into that stream and offering direction, ask policy, look into the past. Essentially, when the government comes into power, it's about responding to extant needs, these that come up in the course of you delivering your duty. The other part is to look into your policy statements. The president has said, okay, I'm coming into office, don't pity me, I know what I'm coming for, I've read through the materials and stuff like that. So he has an idea what he's coming to do. But things will happen that he was not in the least prepared for. One of them is that the issue of foreign reserves. You know, you are thinking coming into office that maybe Nigeria has $34 billion in external reserves, only for you 1 year on the seat, maybe 1 month on the seat, and they are telling you we have barely $5 billion in external reserves. It's something that calls for immediate response. Things have to be thought out. You know, heads have to, you know, come together and say, okay, what are we going to do about this? You know, if care is not taken, it can derail your plan for the next 4 years. So you have to think, you know, it's only thinkers that seem to get all these things right. If you don't have the knowledge base, as at that particular point in time, get the people that do. We have professors of this, professors of that in this country. We have people who are in the labor unions, who have had one experience or the other. You must have an open mind to bring people to the table, make them compromise, let them give ideas and move the nation forward. At the end of the day, Nigeria win. That's all I can say about that.
Right. Let's come back to the studio to you now, Femi. Still talking about this meeting that they'll be having. Yes, the Federal Executive Council meeting that will be holding today. He has mentioned a whole lot with regards to what he expects will be put forward. But for you, what are critical issues you feel that they should look at to hit the ground running?
Yes, thank you. Because number one, the Federal Executive Council meeting, it has always been a transactional meeting. At the end of the Federal Executive meeting, you see a minister who will come out and said, oh, we are awarding contracts for this road from this place to this place in the sum of so million. Then we are terminating this contract for this, about this, and that. So it has always been transactional issues. But the first meeting here is to form the strategy as to how you are going to deliver the dividends of democracy to people. And some of the core issues are this. Number one, in terms of education, whoever is the Minister of Education, your role is to champion education. What are we going to do about ASUU strike? How are we going to avoid that situation? The APC government promised that as soon as we get to power, we are going to start, we will give student loan. Now, that is a very, very serious issue because number one, and they said they will start in September. That's when they will start disbursing the loan. Now, how are you going to make that to be very effective? And again, is it the same Ministry of Education that will disburse this loan? If the students don't pay the loan, how are you going to recover?
There's a document in place already to addressing all of this.
Yes, but the issue is that you see, this is the irony of the whole thing. You put the horse before the cart. First of all, before you start giving students loan, let us tackle unemployment first. Because if these students come out of university and they don't get a job, how are they going to pay the loan back? That is another thing we need to think about. And also, there is one important point, is that I took student loan when I was in university in London. But we have a student loan company that disbursed this loan. And the student loan company have the legal power to take legal action to recover the loan. Now, these are the things we need to put in place. And now we have this issue. You say some of them are making bold statements. You see, some of the rhetorics, we have to be very careful. When you say you are giving people 1 year to end insurgency. Now, the question is this. You need to, first of all, do we even know the state of the military hardware which we have in the country? That's one. Do we need to think about whether we need to retrain some of these soldiers? And those who have been trained, is there any ongoing personal development training? We just lost about 36 soldiers, I mean, in Niger State recently. Now, those are things we need to sit down before we start coming up with a policy statement that you are giving 1 year. If you say you are giving 1 year and the president is asking for accountability, things need to be wet. You need to think things through. Sit down, find out, look, okay, we can do it in 1 year. Don't forget this 1 year issue. Some people have promised that in the past. And there's another very significant thing which the Federal Executive Council needs to look at. The rate of inflation now is between 24 to 25%. And since President Asiwaju took office, about 700 Nigerians have lost their life in tragic circumstances, either due to armed gangs, the bandits, the Fulani S-men, and what have you. And these farmers, we are talking about food production, sufficiency in food production. Some years ago, there was an Operation Feed the Nation in this country, where everybody, every school, you know, you do it with all sorts of excitement. Now, the farmers cannot even go to the farm because of being kidnapped and being attacked here and there. So, you know, this Federal Executive Council, those are the main issue. Let's forget about the contracts that we are going to award this, we are going to award that. That will come later. But now, the pressing issues is that Nigerians want food on the table. They've been going through bread and water month by month. Enough of that. We need a government that will promise and deliver. And if you come into government, it is very important. My own training years ago, clients will come and said, we are suing for medical negligence. Even if you know in your heart of hearts they are going to get 10 million, you better tell them we will get 6, because you promise little and you deliver big. Otherwise, if you promise too big and you deliver little, then there will be problem. So these are the issues. When they sit down today, they need to look at it. And also, ministers, you see, there is something which is very important. And I listened to my brother when he said, you see, there's that joint thinking must be there. Otherwise, this minister is saying this minister is saying, and some of the functions of this minister overlap with each other. Right. So all of them need to work together, and these are the strategies we want the meeting to address. Enough of all this transactional meeting that the road from Calabar to for 10 million, we have terminated it. That is what normally come out at the end of the Federal Executive meeting. And also, there are so many issues the president is contending with now. Yes. He has disbursed 5 million. That is generating controversy. And I must say this, I know some people will take objection. Nigeria is not a welfare state. You understand? Whatever the government is doing, giving palliative and what have you, it's just because of the constitutional provision that the welfare of the people and the security should be the paramount. This is not a United Kingdom, whereby if you don't get a job, you get job seeker allowance. If you're a single mother and you are not earning enough, they give you family credit. This country is not designed that way. It is a country whereby you all need to, you need to struggle to survive. That has been, because our forefathers, what they believed was that we have enough resources that we go around and cater for everybody. It was when some people started stealing all those resources that we are in this mess. And so this is a good opportunity. This first meeting is for them to sit down, have a very serious roundtable discussion, and tell people that we don't want any unnecessary controversies. We want people to work as a team so that they can deliver the dividends of democracy to Nigeria.
Right. Talking about the palliatives, so 5 billion was actually disbursed to the 36 states and the Federal Capital Territory. But I'm wondering your perspective on also this matter of the meeting, what you hope to hear them talk to, speaking to issues that are crucial to Nigerians. You have said that everything right now is critical to be addressed, and the president had to hit the ground running across the board. But there are some persons who say that there are still some critical issues and some critical sectors that will form the basis for every other thing to ride on.
Well, if someone is sick and he thinks food is not important and they start taking medication, that's a problem. And that is why other subsectors are actually the one that will make that sector strong. That's why everything is important. The best way to synergize in a situation like this, as a chartered public administrator, what we have understood when you come out of this kind of crisis is to look at how you stand. We have a statistics department, our database. Yes. Must rule out how each sector stands. And that's where you are going to take off from. That the military, this is the weakness, this is the area of strength. The police, this is the weakness, this is the area of strength. Our economy has suffered certain depression in the last 10 years. But this is the way we can go if we want to survive. We go to health sector, the experience of COVID-19. So we do that, and that's what this meeting today should be talking about. It's not to first bring proposal on board. What are you proposing when you don't know your
you don't have data?
So the first meeting today is to first analyze how we stand. What is our area of strength? Then, germane issues that is confronting us, which are two. The Niger, the removal of subsidy. Having looked at how we stand, we then take a decision on it. On subsidy, what other things can we do? Because the window period for me is 2 years. To begin to see that green light we all hope for in terms of improving the economy, improving security. Gestation period is 2 years in Nigeria. And I can subject that to debate with anybody. Then, the Niger issue has become a major. EU has suspended
the
Niger. And you know, Nigeria seems to be playing the frontline role in all of this. In the analysis of Chris Brown, which I keep referring to as a political scientist, he spoke extensively about the roles of all the continents. There's no role for Africa, except to come and take resources for us and become the strongest nation militarily in the world with our resources in Africa. To take resources from Africa, become the strongest economy in the world with our resources. So, and for us to come out of it as a continent, the role of Nigeria is very central. Certain people will not be happy with you for doing that. You are the captain of ECOMOG. That is the penalty we are facing today. People who sell guns and bullets are not happy with us. So you don't want Liberia to fight war. So why do we? So they gave us our own Boko Haram or whatever, whether it's because of gold, but I still want to deal with it. It's not part of the reason, but because of what you are. We prevented people who sell gun not to sell gun in Africa again by the role we play. So this is what today is meant for. Our assessment as a nation, how do we stand? Then, having done that, the internal assessment of what we can do, our foreign policy is very important.
Right.
We cannot survive in isolation. What is our foreign policy? Do we drop diplomacy? Because our own diplomacy in Nigeria is a strange one. The former president, has done a good job in terms of our foreign policy. All the things Buhari has done in terms of generosity to Niger Republic, to other countries of the world, is a foreign policy that we are supposed to make profit from. When you go to the rest of any part of, you leave Nigeria to go, the role of our embassy is not to come and remove you when there's a trouble. Our young people don't know that. Our foreign mission is to look at what the country can get economically from the accommodating country. For instance, maybe you are in US, maybe you are in Sudan, maybe we have our embassy all over the world. So our foreign policy is also very important. We have to look at it more and we must adopt a pattern how we are going to relate with fellow Africans. We don't want a situation where we will go to South Africa and will not be celebrated with the role we have played in the freedom of South Africa during apartheid. We don't want to be treated that way again. We don't want to be treated the way we are treated in London today. The weakness at which we push our argument anywhere we get to the world, we must reverse it. You must let America know that we are investing in your country, we are building your economy too. You are the first economy in the world, we are building your economy. So we must also review our foreign policy. So that should be the focus of me today, in my own estimation. And it's a universal standard. That the day is not to start talking about free education. The day is not to talk about our buy-stealing guns. So no. Look at what you have in your pocket first. Look at so all these things that the president has been doing all this while is to be able to have all these workmen around him.
Yeah.
And the palliatives, that's what he's been trying to say. Just to create time for him to be able to have all his men around him. Now he have all his men around him. So let's supervise them. The way to supervise them is to create an agenda for them. So we urge the president this morning. Today is to ascertain your capacity as a nation. Are you truly the giant of Africa? so that we know whether we're going to change that nomenclature. Though we are a giant of Africa today, but not now. Tomorrow will become the kind of Africa. Let's resolve our issues. So when you look at all these issues, there will be a clear perspective, so that all this confusion about this minister says this, this one says that will not be there again. They will work in synergy. And like I used to say, the president is eminently qualified. And that's the greatest fear that I have. That if you have someone that is qualified at the moment of affair, the greatest fear is for him not to fail. Because who are you going to employ again? If a professor has failed to impact knowledge in students, is he a trainee lecturer you are going to take him to come and lecture again? So the greatest fear I have at the moment is for him not to fail. He is eminently qualified. There are things we have done together with him in this country that we know that for him to become the president, he's Eldorado for us. So we have to create a barricade around him not to fail. Right. For people who think that if he fails, they are going to be happy because I'm a member of opposition. We all fail if he fails. We should know that too. And what should be in your mind, why you don't prefer Shiwaju, is it not because for the country to work? So if the country works, what's the enmity again? Right. So all hands at the moment must be on deck for him to succeed.
Right. Let me come to you now, Mayoko. You mentioned something critical earlier that is also of concern to some Nigerians, talking about how these ministers can work with the civil service. Because there are those who may have intentions to deliver, but how they work with the civil service or how the civil service cooperates with them is also very critical to deliver on their mandate as it is. So talk to us from that perspective, how these ministers can handle working with the civil service. Michael, can you hear me? All right, let's bring that question. Let me bring it to you now.
Well, that's very important. And Mr. Razak said something which is very important, that look, at this time, the issue in Niger, since they removed subsidy, I think they've managed to save about 2 trillion, according to the president or presidents. The question remains that money, if we are going to go to war in Niger now, where is the Minister for Finance going to get the money from? And these 2 trillion, which they've managed to save through fuel subsidy removal, is it not the case that some years ago in this country there was an award called Udoji Award, whereby teachers, civil servants, all of them were paid that money to flow into the marketplace because people were spending, you see your teachers in those days buying machine, because this is the benefit from the oil. And now, are we going to use that money? I'm not saying so. Diplomacy is what we should embrace, and I agree with that. Yeah. But your question of that
working with the civil service,
working with that is very important, because you see these civil servants, they have their own ways. Some of them have this bureaucratic way of doing things, and now some of them are even old school that they cannot even embrace modern day technology. And then, so these are the things you need to look at. And if you are going to be a minister, in order to work with them, you better listen more and you consult more and you carry them along. Because if you are not careful, they are going to frustrate whatever you are going to do. And if care is not taken, disaster will be all over the place. So if you are the minister, you need to listen more and you need to use what is called the carrot and stick leadership approach. It is very important they do that. Otherwise, we may have issues.
Okay, Mayako is back. Let me throw the question back to him now. Mayako, earlier you mentioned the matter of how to work with the civil service. We know how critical they are to the success of any minister's delivery on their portfolios as it is. Now, how would you expect, ministers to work with these persons talking about the civil service? From the statements the former governor Nyesom Wike made on yesterday, there are those who have been saying that he is setting the ground for these people not to work or not to cooperate with him. And I am wondering how you expect these ministers to really ensure that they get the buy-in of these civil servants to their vision, and so they can deliver on the dividends of democracy to Nigerians?
Thank you, Vero. I think what needs to be done is for the various ministers to employ emotional intelligence when dealing with the civil servants. Civil service is like the neck of every administration. You can't work without them. And they know where the bodies are buried, so to say. They know where the banana peels are. So you have to be extremely careful dealing with them. They have their interests. They have their leanings. You need to just understand it and know how to navigate the ministries with them. They can be great allies if you bring yourself as somebody who is seeking knowledge, as somebody who is not trying to impose a new order. If you read the 48 Laws of Power, it says preach the need for change, but never reform too much at once. So if Wike is talking tough now, he will have a good reception. Why? Because there was an El Rufai before him. You know, when El Rufai was in that ministry, he was very tough. He was all around talking about master plan. People were angry. But many years down the line, people have now seen that, okay, El Rufai was a good person. You know, I'm not talking about personal characteristics now. I'm talking about his ability to deliver on the mandate that was given to him. And people see another El Rufai in the making. And for those who have lived in Abuja and have seen how Abuja has gone to the gutters over the years and how things are not actually as they should be, they kind of appreciate Wike. You know, they feel that, okay, now things need to work. And somebody who can make it work is here. Forget the fact that he talks 19 to a dozen. It's just in his nature. But more importantly, he's somebody that walks the talk. So you need synergy with other ministries. I can look at 1, 2, 3 ministries, you know, across like health, for instance. You need to work with the humanitarian affairs. You need to work with those in charge of labor and employment. You have to talk with those people who are looking at even security on its own for workers. So that is your ministry. The blue and marine too have to look at what is happening in the world out there, how people are changing their direction, how moving to green economies and the rest of it. So work with others, work with the civil service, ask them where things are going, and you'll be okay.
All right, Razak, your final word in 30 seconds.
Well, I wish Mr. President and all the ministers well. I want to say that Nigerians high expectations of them. All the knowledge they have acquired for them to become the minister, and the experiences must come to play.
Absolutely.
The light at the end of the tunnel, I know it's not an optical illusion, it's hope. We have hope in them.
All right.